The phone rang at 2 in the morning, and I knew before I answered that my whole world was about to break in half. Why, Grandpa? Why did they leave me alone? That single question, whispered through tears, would end a marriage, gut a company, and teach two grown adults exactly what it costs to throw away a child. And what happened over the next 12 hours would make sure they never forgot it. Welcome back to Dad's Cruel Revenge. Grab your snacks, get comfortable, because every villain in this story got exactly what they deserved. Be sure to subscribe and drop a comment. What would you have done in my place? My name is Walter Grady, 61 years old, retired contractor, widower, and grandfather to a little girl who was never mine by blood but was mine in every way that mattered. Her name was Lily. We adopted her into our family through my son Marcus when she was 4. His wife Denise had insisted on it, called it completing their family before her own biological son, Grant, was born a year later. After Grant arrived, everything changed. Slowly at first. Then all at once. That night, Lily's small voice cracked through the phone. Mom and Dad took Grant to Disney. They said I had to stay with the neighbor, but nobody came, Grandpa. I'm alone in the house. It's dark and I'm scared. My hands went cold. I asked her 3 times to confirm she was safe, that the doors were locked, that she wasn't hurt. She kept crying the same 4 words. Why, Grandpa? Why me? I did not raise my voice. I did not panic. I told her to stay on the line, and I started packing a bag before I even hung up the phone. I drove to their house first, breaking every speed limit I'd respected for 40 years. The porch light was off. Every window was dark except one in Lily's bedroom, where a small lamp glowed like a lighthouse in a storm. I used the spare key Denise gave me 2 years ago in case of emergencies, and I have never been more grateful for a small act of trust. Lily was sitting on the stairs in her pajamas, knees pulled to her chest, phone clutched in both hands like it was the only solid thing in the world. When she saw me, she didn't run, she just stared, like she couldn't believe I was real. Then she broke, and I caught her before she hit the floor. They said Grant gets to go because he's little and needs bonding time, she whispered into my shoulder. They said I was big enough to handle being alone. I'm 8, Grandpa. I held her until her breathing slowed. Then I made 3 calls. The first was to my lawyer, a woman named Rhonda Voss who had handled my late wife's estate and who I trusted with my life. The second was to a travel agent I'd used for 30 years, booking the last 2 seats on a red-eye to Orlando. The third call, I didn't make. Not yet. I wanted Marcus and Denise blissfully unaware for as long as possible. Because the moment they found out I knew what they'd done, the version of this story where they got to explain themselves quietly, privately, with dignity intact, that version was already over. Rhonda picked up on the second ring, voice sharp with sleep. I explained everything, the empty house, the missing neighbor who was supposed to check in, the 8-year-old alone in the dark while her adoptive parents played with their biological son 3 states away. She went quiet for a long moment, and when she spoke again, her voice had changed. Walter, that's child endangerment. Documented, with a timestamp, it's actionable. I don't want to just document it, I said. I want it to matter. Then get down there. Get pictures. Get her statement recorded while it's fresh. And Walter, do not confront them without me on standby. I promised her I wouldn't do anything reckless. I was already breaking that promise in my head. I packed a bag for Lily myself, her favorite stuffed rabbit, a week of clothes, her tablet, her toothbrush shaped like a narwhal. She watched me with red, swollen eyes. Are we really going to Disney? She asked, disbelief and fragile hope fighting on her face. We're going to Orlando, I told her. What happens there depends on your mom and dad. At the airport, I photographed everything, the empty house, the unlocked back door the neighbor apparently never checked, the time-stamped call log on Lily's phone. Rhonda's paralegal met me at security with a manila folder full of paperwork I hadn't asked for but desperately needed, guardianship affidavits, emergency custody forms, a private investigator's contact who specialized in family cases. By the time we boarded, I wasn't just angry anymore. I was building a case. The flight was 4 hours of Lily sleeping against my arm and me staring at the seat back, replaying every warning sign I'd ignored over the past year. Denise's comments about Grant being the easy one. Marcus laughing off Lily's exclusion from family photos as just how the scheduling worked out. My late wife, before she passed, had pulled me aside once and said, "Walter, watch how they treat that girl when they think no one's looking." I hadn't watched closely enough. We landed at 6 in the morning. I rented a car, checked into a hotel 2 blocks from the resort where Marcus had posted, just hours earlier, a photo of Grant on Denise's shoulders in front of Cinderella's castle, captioned "Family time is everything." Lily saw the photo over my arm and went very quiet. "They didn't even miss me," she said. "They will," I told her. "I promise you that." I called the private investigator Rhonda had connected me with, a retired detective named Frank Osei who specialized in family court documentation. Within 2 hours, Frank had pulled security footage requests, resort reservation records showing only 3 guests booked under Marcus Grady's name, and a statement from the actual neighbor confirming she'd never been asked to watch Lily at all. The arrangement Marcus mentioned in a group text had been a lie from the start. By 9 that morning, I had a folder of evidence thick enough to end more than a vacation. I had enough to end the story they'd been telling themselves about who they were. Then I got Lily dressed, took her hand, and we walked toward the resort gates. Marcus saw me first. I watched his face cycle through confusion, disbelief, and then something closer to dread as he clocked Lily standing beside me in a sundress I'd bought her that morning, holding it chill like nothing in the world was wrong. Denise turned next, Grant balanced on her hip, and her mouth actually fell open. "Dad?" "What, how are you?" Marcus started. "Lily called me at 2 in the morning, I said, keeping my voice level, almost pleasant, the way I used to talk to difficult clients right before I fired them. "Crying. Alone. In a dark house. Asking me why." Denise's face went white, then red. "The Hendersons were supposed to check on her." "The Hendersons," I said, "have no idea what you're talking about. I have a recorded statement." I let that sit. "I also have timestamped photos of an empty house, an unlocked door, and a security log showing your reservation only ever listed 3 guests. Not 4. You didn't forget to arrange a sitter, Denise. You never planned for her to come at all." Marcus's jaw tightened. "You're overreacting." "She's fine, she's clearly fine." "She was fine," I said, "because an 8-year-old girl sat on her stairs for 6 hours, terrified, until her grandfather drove through the night to get her." "That's not fine." "That's a story I intend to make sure everyone hears." Grant started fussing in Denise's arms, oblivious, and for one long moment nobody spoke. Lily just held my hand tighter, and looked at the family that had left her behind like she was watching strangers. Denise found her footing first, going on the offensive the way she always did when cornered. "You can't just show up and lecture us about parenting, Walter. You don't know what it's like managing 2 kids with different needs." "Different needs," I repeated. "Is that what we're calling it? One child gets Disney World. The other gets an empty house and a locked door she can't reach because she's 8 and small for her age." "She's not even," Denise started, then stopped herself, "but not fast enough." "Finish that sentence," I said quietly. "Go ahead." Marcus grabbed her arm, a warning, but the damage was already sliding into the open. "She's not even really ours," Denise finished anyway, quieter now but no less damning. "I mean, biologically. It's different with Grant." Lily's hand went rigid in mine. I felt something in my chest go cold and very, very still. "She has been your daughter for 4 years, I said. "You stood in a courtroom and swore an oath to that. You don't get to unswear it because a biological option came along later." Marcus tried to smooth it over. "That's not what she meant, Dad, come on." "I recorded that," I said, holding up my phone, screen dark but the microphone app clearly open, red light blinking. "Every word since I walked up. I have the empty house on record. I have the neighbor's denial on record. And now I have Denise on record explaining exactly why Lily wasn't invited." Denise's face drained of every ounce of color she had left. That night, I didn't go back to Marcus and Denise's hotel room. I took Lily to my own hotel, ordered room service, let her eat ice cream for dinner because some nights call for exactly that kind of mercy. She fell asleep in front of a cartoon, her small hands still curled around mine even in sleep, like she was afraid I'd disappear too if she let go. I sat in the dark hotel room and made the calls that would end this properly. First, Rhonda. I sent her the recording. She listened twice, then said one sentence that settled everything for me. Walter, this isn't just a custody conversation anymore. This is a documented pattern of differential treatment and willful endangerment. We can move for emergency guardianship. Second, Franco Say, the investigator. He'd already pulled financial records showing Marcus and Denise had booked and paid for the Orlando trip 3 weeks in advance, 3 weeks during which they'd made zero arrangements for Lily beyond a lie about a neighbor who'd never agreed to anything. Third, I called my son. Marcus answered on the first ring, voice small in a way I hadn't heard since he was a teenager caught in a lie. Dad, please, let's talk about this like adults, we can fix. There's nothing to fix tonight, I said. Tomorrow, you're going to meet me and my lawyer at the Resort Business Center at 9 a.m. Bring Denise. Don't bring Grant. Dad. 9 a.m., Marcus. Or Rhonda files the emergency petition without you in the room to explain yourselves. He didn't argue again. They arrived at 8:55, both of them pale, both of them clearly having spent the night arguing rather than sleeping. Rhonda sat beside me, calm as still water, a folder open on the table between us that neither Marcus nor Denise could quite bring themselves to look at directly. Let's be efficient, Rhonda said. Walter has documented evidence of endangerment, a recorded admission of differential treatment based on adoption status, and financial records proving premeditation. This wasn't an oversight, it was a plan. We are filing for emergency modification of guardianship, effective immediately, placing Lily in Walter's primary custody pending a full family court review. Denise's composure cracked completely. You can't take her from us over one mistake. One mistake doesn't come with a paper trail this long, Rhonda said flatly. Marcus tried a different angle, leaning toward me instead of the lawyer. Dad, please. She's still our daughter. We love her. You left her alone in the dark and called it bonding time for the child you actually wanted, I said. Love doesn't look like that. I slid a second document across the table. This is a voluntary agreement. Sign it, and this stays a private family matter, supervised visitation only, reviewed in 6 months. Refuse, and Rhonda files everything with the court tomorrow morning, along with a formal complaint to the adoption agency and, given the financial premeditation, a referral to Child Protective Services. Denise reached for the pen with shaking hands. Marcus stared at the paper like it might rearrange itself into a different story. It didn't. Neither did I. They signed. Of course they signed. The alternative meant a courtroom, a public record, and a story that wouldn't stay contained to one uncomfortable morning in a resort business center. But signing didn't erase what they'd said, and it didn't undo what Lily had heard through a phone line at 2 in the morning. I took Lily home with me that same afternoon, not to Marcus and Denise's house, but to mine. Her room there had been the guest room for years, decorated in neutral colors for occasional weekend visits. Within a week, it was hers completely. Purple walls. A reading nook. A shelf for the stuffed rabbit that had ridden in her lap on a red-eye flight to rescue her from a house that never should have been empty. The supervised visitation started slow and stayed slow. Grant, too young to understand any of it, asked why Lily didn't live with them anymore. Denise never had a good answer, because the true answer indicted her every time she tried to explain it. 6 months later, the review came. I sat in family court, not gloating, not vindictive on the surface, just steady, calm, prepared. Rhonda presented everything. Marcus and Denise's lawyer offered a weak defense about isolated poor judgment, but Frank's financial records and my recording made isolated impossible to argue. The judge extended primary custody to me for another year, with a formal note in the file, pattern of neglect tied to differential treatment of an adopted minor. Marcus's face when he heard that phrase read into the record, that was the moment I knew this wasn't over for them. It was just beginning. Word travels in small suburban circles faster than anyone likes to admit. Denise worked as a regional manager at a mid-sized retail chain, the kind of job built on community trust and a spotless reputation. Somehow, and I'll admit I didn't discourage it, the story reached a local parenting forum, then a community Facebook group, then, eventually, a reporter doing a piece on adoption discrimination within families. Names were redacted in the article, but in a town our size, redaction is a formality, not a disguise. Denise lost her promotion track within 2 months. Not fired outright, nothing so clean, just quietly passed over, her name mysteriously absent from conversations she used to lead. Marcus fared worse. He worked in his father-in-law's construction business, a business he assumed would one day be his. But family businesses run on family trust, and Denise's father, upon hearing the full recorded account of what his daughter had said about Lily, made a decision that shocked everyone but me. He restructured the ownership plan, cutting Marcus out of the succession entirely. "I built this company for family," he reportedly told Marcus. "You just showed me what you think that word means." Their marriage, already strained by months of supervised visits and mutual blame, didn't survive the year. Denise moved out in the spring. Grant split his time between 2 smaller apartments instead of one family home. Lily, meanwhile, thrived. She made honor roll. She joined a swim team. She stopped flinching every time a phone rang late at night. I never had to lift a hand against either of them. I only had to make sure the truth had somewhere to land. A year after that 2 a.m. phone call, the court finalized what I'd known was inevitable since the moment I walked into that hotel lobby holding my granddaughter's hand. Full, permanent legal guardianship, transferred to me, with Marcus and Denise's parental rights formally limited to minimal supervised contact, contingent on continued compliance with court-ordered family counseling neither of them had bothered to complete. Marcus asked to see me alone before the final hearing. We met at a coffee shop, the kind of neutral ground divorced families and broken families learn to use. He looked older than 34. Tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. "I keep thinking about that night," he said. "About what she must have felt, sitting there alone." "Good," I said. "You should think about it every night for the rest of your life." "I know I can't undo it." "No," I agreed. "You can't. But you can spend the rest of your life proving to Grant that you understand what you did to his sister, or you can spend it pretending it didn't happen and lose him too, eventually, the same way you lost her." He didn't have an answer for that. I didn't need him to. I stood, left cash on the table for both our coffees, and walked out to my car, where Lily was waiting, headphones on, humming along to a song, safe and unaware of just how thoroughly the ground beneath her old family had shifted. I got in, and she looked up and smiled, easy, unguarded, the kind of smile she hadn't had in her repertoire the night I found her on those stairs. People ask me sometimes if I regret how far I took it, the recordings, the lawyer, the investigator, the very public unraveling of my own son's marriage and career. I tell them the truth, I regret nothing except not watching closer, sooner, before it ever got to a 2 a.m. phone call in the first place. Lily is 9 now. She calls me Dad more often than Grandpa these days, an accident of language neither of us has ever bothered to correct. She still has the stuffed rabbit. She still, occasionally, wakes from a bad dream and needs to hear my voice in the next room to know the house is safe. I always answer before the second call. Marcus sees her twice a month, supervised, quiet, careful. Denise sees her less. Grant, when he's old enough to understand, will get the truth from me directly, not a softened version designed to protect anyone's feelings. Some lessons are worth passing down clearly. I didn't destroy my son's family out of cruelty. I ended a version of that family that had already decided, quietly and repeatedly, that one child mattered less than another. I simply made sure the world knew it too, and made sure the girl who called me crying in the dark never had to wonder again whether anyone was coming for her. Because someone always should come. Every single time. No exceptions, no excuses, no quietly empty houses left unexamined. That's the whole story. She called me at 2 in the morning asking why. By the next night, she never had to ask that question again, not about me, not for the rest of her life.